Out of the 27,000 students, 3,000 students are graduates, graduate level, working on master's or postgraduate or PhD. And it's amazing. When I came 10 years ago, we didn't really have a PhD program. We had zero. We had a couple of Doctor of Arts. Those were antiquated programs. The state prevented MTSU from growing in the graduate programs because they said we were competing with TSU, Tennessee State University, and because Tennessee State University were an historically black institution and there were some desegregation issues, we couldn't get any graduate programs because they wanted the graduate programs in Nashville so that Tennessee State can draw majority students. And so we were handicapped, and to this day we still are. But with the ingenuity of our faculty and our staff, we took lemon, we made lemonade. I know that's a cliche, but that truly is. We became the best undergraduate university in the state, got the folks in East Tennessee all riled up about it. And then we start breaking down the barriers. Now we have 9 PhDs at this university that attract students. And as business folks, this should resonate with you. The reason you need this university to be a great university is because when students come to MTSU, they tend to stay. We don't export students like there's some great universities in we're not the only great university in the state. I mean, Vanderbilt is an unbelievable university. But if you look at what happens to students who graduate from Vanderbilt University, they leave the state of Tennessee. Whereas we have, in the Middle Tennessee area, within an hour's drive of this campus, 60% of our 110,000 alums stay within an hour's drive of the campus. What's the implication for you as business folks? So each of you should raise eternal hell when MTSU doesn't get its fair shake from the state. Because the success of this university depends on the bottom line. Now, we're not even talking about what the university brings in terms of cultural and social and all the activities were mentioned about the athletic, but the social and cultural amenities that this university brings is absolutely incredible. So, but if you forget about all that and say, well, I'm not interested in that, and you'll see some numbers in a moment. I'll give you some economic data in a moment that tells you about this institution. But it is absolutely incredible what this institution produces for this community. And I've said from day one that MTSU is the engine that drives the Middle Tennessee economy. And in the 10 years that I've been here, every major company that thinks about relocating to the Middle Tennessee area, one of the first persons they want to talk to is me. Because they know for their employees, with regards to educational value, the production of graduates, Mayor Bragg will tell you, or Mayor Burgess will tell you every time, or the chamber folks will tell you every time they go out and try to attract the business to move to this area. And when they make that decision to move to this area, they'll tell you the number one reason is because of this university that we have. Some other demographics. 17% of our 27,000 students, African American, 4% Asian, 2% Hispanic. We're working very hard to balance that. In fact, we now have a website that's in Spanish. We just hired a counselor, advisor that speaks Spanish. We're making a major outreach. That is in terms of demographic of growth for our country, it's in that area, and your university is responding. Just like we're responding on the international part in attracting international students, we're not in any way paying attention. We're not forgetting about our core folks, the students within the area. The percentage from Rutherford County versus outside of Rutherford County, We have 26.7% from Rutherford County of our student population, 61.1% in-state, non-Rutherford County, and then about 6.3% out-of-state and international. And we're going to try to balance that. We're really close at a point, probably bringing in a consultant in the next couple of weeks to do a retreat with our executive. We're about ready to say that we are going to reach X because we're not getting the resources from the state that we should be. Those years we were growing and the other universities were not growing, the state did not reallocate resources. We're the lowest funded in the state, less space, less resources. To give you an example, University of Tennessee Knoxville gets about $8,000, $8,500 from the state per student to educate a student at UT Knoxville. Do you have any guess what MTSU's subsidy is compared to University of Tennessee Knoxville? $4,000. So they get over $4,000 more per student, ladies and gentlemen. TSU is about $5,000. Austin P, Tennessee Tech, $5,000 and $6,000 per student. And the reason for that is over the last 10, 15 years, we have grown, didn't get money from the state. The other universities were not growing, so we had to do more with less, and we became so efficient in dealing with it that the state just kind of ignored us. So because of that, we're now thinking about capping our enrollment and saying we're going to go up to 29 or 30,000 or 28,000. We're going to stop. We're not admitting anyone above that because our resources are stretching. And yeah, we have some construction going on campus, but the student union, we're building a new student union. It's about $70 million going up right now. The student union that our students are eating in now and getting their lunch and dinner, that was built in the 70s when the campus was 7,000. And if you go into KUC right now, about this time and another hour from now, you will see students sitting on the floor. I mean, we just don't. So the growth has been tremendous. We have not been able to keep up with the growth because of resources. That's the reason why we have to somewhat cut down on our enrollment. Our summer enrollment, we have one of the largest summer enrollment, and that's the other thing. Again, for businesses, one of the largest in the country. About 10,000 students go to summer school at this campus. No other university come close to such a significant number during the summer. We have a large non-traditional student population. Non-traditional students are 25 years or older with families. They represent 30% of our population. Most of our students work 40, 50, 60 hours. They have families. So they're not the typical student that you would find to go to UT Knoxville or University of Georgia or where I worked many years at Oklahoma State, where when you go to those campuses, they're rural areas. In rural areas, that's the only thing. And most of them, they don't have families. If they do have families, they have enough money where they don't have to work. We have students who have to manage all of these competing. Very dynamic campus in that respect. The feeder students, we get a lot of transfer students. Martlow is our number one feeder. Columbia State is next, Volunteer State, Nashville State, and guess who is up in the top 5? The University of Tennessee, Knoxville. It's one of the top feeder students. Go there for a year and then realize that there's another institution in this state I think I want to try, and they come to MTSU. That's followed by UTC Chattanooga. Now, just a couple of minutes, because I want to leave some time for you to ask me some questions on some economic data. The economic impact, I just touched on it briefly, but you need to know that this university, because we're here, we generate annually over $1 billion to the economy of Middle Tennessee. So think about MTSU going away, just disappearing. What happens to this community? It becomes a ghost town. That is not an exaggeration. And I have not done a good job in 10 years in getting that message to resonate with folks in this community. We're trying. We're finding new ways. We've reorganized our marketing and branding department. because there are too many folks in this community that take this university for granted. And I've been in some meetings in the last year where I've heard people in this community saying, oh, MTSU is too big, they're getting in the way, they complain about the traffic when students come, and they complain about, we're expanding, we do all this stuff. Your taxes are low because MTSU is a successful institution. $1 billion, over 2,200 full-time employees. When you add our part-time employees, we are one of the top 10 in the Middle Tennessee employees, over 3,000 employees. So, this area reaps $9 for every $1 of state support that we get. The return on the investment is 9 to 1. I wish I had some stocks. Student spending on tuition, housing, food, entertainment, clothing, each year, just from our students, $447 million, almost $500 million. Operating capital expenditure for MTSU include building, maintenance, electricity, utilities, $148 million a year. Payroll. Our payroll is $257 million a year for our faculty and staff. Visitor spending because of MTSU, $46 million a year. For our retirees, $33 million a year. So, just imagine this community without MTSU. Sobering, isn't it? And I hope you would spread this message to your neighbors, to your friends, your church members. When you hear them whining about MTSU and what's going on that campus, give them some of the facts. And ask them what would they do and how would they survive if this university should go under. Now, as long as I'm president, it's not going under. They can whine all they want to whine. And that's just my personality. That's his nature. And folks say, well, Dr. McPhee, you've been here 10 years. You haven't slowed down yet. No, I'm not going to slow down. That's not how my parents brought me up. They, if you get into something, do it the best. And I'm very competitive. I want to be number one. I don't like taking number two to nobody. That's why my wife and I, we don't play pool anymore, or backgammon, because I'd beat her brains out and talk about it. It's the nature of my personality. Now, I play fair. I don't cheat, and I play fair. But this is really an incredible institution, and we haven't even begun, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I had more time. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface. We really haven't. And that's why, after 10 years, I'm still very excited. We're about, hopefully next year, we'll get the funding from the state to build our new science building. That's $148 million. And the people in UT, they went after us big time. They just couldn't believe that MTSU needed this facility and this kind of money. And so we need advocates like you. So if you think for other reasons, well, just think about the success of your business and the lack thereof. It is closely tied and connected to our university. If I had time, I'd tell you about all the good stuff our employees are doing in the community, the service, the support services in this community. Tremendous, tremendous asset. And so what I try to give you some hardcore data, not just what I feel MTSU is doing. And I always refer to numbers don't lie.